Hello everyone. Were you able to fully understand the concept of market size and calculate for your business after watching the previous session? Now, in this session, you will learn about your customer, the people who pay and use the services that your startup provides. But before that, let us check the answers to the mini quiz from the previous session. Firstly, the answer to question 1. What is the definition of TAM? It is the revenue opportunity that a company has if it has 100% of the market share. Next, the answer to question 2. What is the definition of SAM? It is the slice of the TAM that can be served by a company's services. And the answer to question 3. What is the definition of SOM? It is the actual revenue opportunity that can be served by the company's services. Please make sure that you not only fully understand the meaning of each, but also be able to actually estimate them for your own business. Now, let's move on to today's main topic, customers. If you're launching a startup, you need to provide something that somebody needs. You may think it doesn't need to be said, but quite a few founders do not follow this rule. There are more founders than you think who try to start a business using an idea that sparks their mind, a theme they are interested in, and the latest technology. I have met countless founders, and so many of them were so set in their subjective beliefs. Among these people, there were very few who would accept advice from a third party and change direction. They typically create numbers forcefully based on their own assumptions or pursuing a customer that does not exist. As a result, they went out of business in a short period of time. So, what do you think causes startups to fail? Is it because the founder's ability is low? Or is it because the product is bad? Or maybe, is it because there are insufficient funds? The correct answer is that there was no market need for the business that was launched. In other words, there were no paying customers. This might sound harsh, but there are too many startups that create services and spend money on sales and marketing, even though they are unclear about who they are targeting. To avoid this mistake, please clarify your target customers before developing your products. Never in the reverse order. So, how do you clarify your customer image? Well, you will have to listen directly to potential customers. As far as I know, there are no startups that have successfully started a business without directly interviewing potential customers. However, you also cannot obtain useful information by blindly talking to a large number of people. In order to obtain useful information for your business, you need to know how to conduct interviews with potential customers. From here, I will explain the specific points of the interview. There are 5 questions you should always ask when interviewing potential clients. The first question is, what is the most difficult part of doing the work in question? Remember session 1. I explained the problem statement of a startup called Wufu as a good example. They thoroughly interviewed potential customers about what they find most difficult when trying to create a website. When you ask any questions, just listen to what the prospect has to say. If they can't answer right away, speak a little at a time and wait. Please never try to lead someone on by saying things like, "You are having trouble with so and so, aren't you?" It is important to have a hypothesis, but if you include direct options in your questions, it will be misleading and you will not be able to truly understand the customer's real concerns. The second question is, when was the last time you faced that problem? This question will tell you the timeline and frequency, such as whether this problem is happening now, if it just happened a long time ago, or if it happens frequently. The third question is, why was it so difficult? This is a very important question and should be asked especially carefully, as it is directly connected to the customer's pain points. There must have been a reason, such as because it required highly specialized skills, or because it was easy but too time-consuming and tedious, or simply because it cost too much money. The fourth question is, what have you done so far to solve that problem? Namely, the current solution. In the case of Wufu, as a result of many interviews, the team found that many people responded by either learning to code by themselves or hiring a programmer. The key finding was that the respondents were not satisfied with either solution, but they had no choice because there was no other solution. The fifth question is, what did you dislike about the solutions that you have tried so far? In the case of Wufu, for people who are trying to learn coding and create their own website, it takes too much time, and some people may not have been able to learn as much as they expected, even if they had put in the effort. On the other hand, for those who hired programmers, there may have been cases where the cost was too high, or despite the high fee that they paid, the result would have been disappointing. If you just want to create a simple website, it would take too much time for someone with no experience to learn coding from scratch, and it would be too expensive to hire a programmer. Wufu solved both the time and money problems. This is a great example of accurately identifying a business opportunity. Here are things to keep in mind when you ask these 5 questions. What you should definitely do is pay close attention to what your prospects are saying and learn from them. When doing so, be sure to get their insights or their true feelings. These will allow you to test the hypothesis that you made before the interview. On the other hand, the last thing that you want to do is pitch your idea to potential customers. This introduces unnecessary bias and ruins the interview. Also, please don't ask for definite answers. There are no right or wrong answers to customer opinions. And testing the interviewee is strictly prohibited. The customer interview has different purposes depending on the stage of your startup. First, if you are at the idea stage, it is about validating your idea. An idea is just an idea, So you need to verify whether there are actually people who have the problem you envision. Next, once you are confident that your idea works, create a mock-up before building up the product. By building this mock-up, we will clarify what kind of people will pay to use your product. Interviews are still necessary even after the successful launch of the service. There is a high possibility that the number of customers will not increase as much as you expected. If so, the service may not be easy to use. Or, even if your service is excellent, it might be completely unknown by potential customers due to insufficient or incorrect sales and marketing activities. Launching a startup is a series of iterations. If you are not confident that you fully understand your customer, never leave it vague and always clarify it by conducting interviews. Now, to conclude this session, let us have a mini quiz. The first question is, what is the biggest reason why startups fail? The second question is, what are the 5 questions to ask in a customer interview? And last but certainly not least, what are the 3 things that you should never do during a customer interview? Please review this video lecture on your own and prepare your answers before the next session. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.